The city of Arelon never slept. Neon signs painted the streets with blue, red, and gold lights. Hover cars hummed in the sky lanes, and streams of people filled the sidewalks, hurrying to their destinations. Yet for all its brightness and wealth, the city also had dark alleys where the forgotten lived. In one of those alleys, among the shadows of broken buildings and discarded crates, lived Kylara. Kylara was not human. She was a fox-girl hybrid. Her kind descended from an alien species long ago scattered across the stars. She had pointed ears, soft fur along her tail, and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. But to most humans, she was nothing more than an unwanted outsider. She had no family, no home, and no friends. Every day was a struggle to find food and survive the cold nights. She would often curl up inside an old supply crate behind a noodle shop, listening to the sounds of laughter and music spilling from the restaurants. The smell of hot food made her stomach twist, but she never begged. Her pride kept her silent even when hunger burned. To pass the time, she would whisper to herself the words her mother once told her before they were separated. "Strength is not in what you take, but in what you give back." Those words stayed in her heart, though the world around her showed little kindness. One evening, Kylara wandered out of the alley toward the bright central square. Towering glass spires surrounded the interstellar diplomatic complex, a place where leaders and ambassadors from different worlds met. It was not a place for street children, and guards often chased away anyone who didn't belong, but Kylara liked to watch from a distance. The complex represented a world of power and importance far removed from her life. She crouched near the entrance of a transport stop, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd. That was when she noticed him. A tall man in a fine coat stepped out of a sleek hover car. His steps were quick, purposeful, as though he carried the weight of worlds on his shoulders. Two security officers followed at a respectful distance. Kylara could tell at once he was someone important, though she didn't know his name. As he moved toward the glowing doors of the complex, something slipped from his coat pocket. It was small, flat, and dark, falling unnoticed into the gutter by the curb. Kylara's ears twitched. She padded closer and picked it up before anyone else could. It was a wallet, not an ordinary one, but a diplomatic wallet with encoded chips, identification tags, and a sheen of authority. Even Kylara, who had no possessions beyond her ragged clothes, could feel its value. Inside were credits, enough to feed her for years, maybe even buy her a place to live. Her hands trembled as she held it, her stomach growled. She thought of the hunger, of nights curled up cold and weak. She imagined walking away, keeping it, and finally escaping her misery. Nobody had ever given her anything. Nobody cared if she lived or died. Wasn't this a chance, a gift from fate? But then her mother's words echoed in her mind. "Strength is not in what you take, but in what you give back." Kylara closed her eyes. She took a deep breath and clutched the wallet tighter. No, she couldn't steal it. She couldn't let herself fall to the same cruelty the world had shown her. With quiet determination, she turned and walked toward the great glass doors. The guards spotted her immediately. Their eyes narrowed at the sight of a ragged fox girl with torn clothes and dusty fur. "Stop there," one of them barked. "This area is restricted." Kylara froze, but then held out the wallet with both hands. "He dropped this," she said softly, her voice steady though her heart raced. "The man who just entered, this belongs to him." The guards looked at each other. One of them took the wallet, scanning it quickly. His eyes widened when the identification flashed across the screen. Ambassador Darius Harlan, representative of Earth. "You wait here," the guard said, his tone now uncertain. He disappeared inside with the wallet, leaving Kylara standing nervously under the harsh glow of the lobby lights. Minutes felt like hours. People passed by, whispering about her strange appearance. Some frowned, others laughed quietly, but Kylara stood tall, refusing to look away. Then the tall man himself returned. Ambassador Darius Harlan stepped out into the lobby, his fine coat gleaming, his expression sharp and commanding. When his eyes fell on Kylara, however, his steps slowed. The guard handed him the wallet. "She brought it back, sir. Said you dropped it?" Harlan opened the wallet, scanned its contents, and frowned. Everything was untouched. Every credit, every code still there. He looked back at the fox girl, confusion and curiosity flickering in his eyes. "You could have kept this," he said, his voice carrying authority that made the whole hall go silent. "It's worth more than anything you've ever owned, I suspect." "Why didn't you?" Kalara swallowed nervously but lifted her chin. "Because it wasn't mine," she said simply. The word struck Harlan harder than he expected. In his years as a diplomat, he had met leaders who lied, merchants who cheated, and politicians who sold their honor for far less than what this wallet contained. Yet here was a ragged, hungry girl who had chosen honesty over survival. For a long moment, Harlan said nothing. Then, to everyone's shock, he stepped forward and knelt slightly so that his eyes met hers. His voice softened. "What is your name?" he asked. The entire hall fell silent. Guards, aides, and officials stared in disbelief. A human ambassador of Earth, one of the most powerful voices in the galaxy, lowering himself to speak kindly to a street child. "It was unheard of, Kalara," she whispered. "Kalara," Harlan repeated, his tone carrying respect. "You've shown me more honor in this moment than many of the leaders I speak with daily. I will not forget this." Gasps filled the air. The guards exchanged nervous glances. Diplomats passing by stopped to watch. No one had expected this. Kalara felt her heart race. For the first time in years, someone looked at her not as a burden or an outcast, but as a person. And though she could not know it yet, this simple act, returning a lost wallet, was about to change her life and perhaps even the fate of worlds. The silence in the grand hall lingered long after Kalara whispered her name. Ambassador Darius Harlan held her gaze with surprising warmth. The guards shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to do. Everyone expected him to offer her a few coins, thank her briefly, and send her back to the streets. But Harlan did not move in the way they imagined. Instead, he stood tall and faced the room of onlookers. His voice carried authority, but there was also emotion in it. "This girl," he said firmly, pointing gently toward Kalara, "has done what many men and women in power have failed to do. She has chosen honesty over gain. She has chosen integrity over desperation. She deserves more than thanks. She deserves respect." The guards blinked in shock. An aide standing nearby tried to whisper in the ambassador's ear, but Harlan brushed him aside. The crowd of officials and diplomats from other worlds began murmuring among themselves. Some frowned, uncomfortable with what was happening. Others watched with cautious curiosity. Harlan turned back to Kalara. "Come with me," he said simply. Kalara's ears twitched. "With you?" she asked hesitantly. "Yes," Harlan replied. "You will be my guest. Tonight you will not sleep in the streets." Gasps filled the lobby. The guards exchanged looks of disbelief, but the ambassador's word was law within his staff. No one dared oppose him openly. Kalara hesitated, her heart pounding. She had survived for years without anyone's help. Could she trust this man? Yet the way he looked at her was unlike anyone else. His eyes held no pity, only recognition. Slowly she nodded. The guard stepped aside as Harlan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder and led her into the glittering corridors of the diplomatic. Complex A world of light. Kalara had never been inside such a place. Polished marble floors reflected golden chandeliers. Walls displayed works of art from 100 different worlds. Servants and officials hurried about with datapads and files, their voices hushed. Kalara felt small and out of place, her ragged clothes stark against the luxury surrounding her. But Harlan did not let her walk behind. He kept her beside him as though she were an equal. He guided her into a private dining hall where food was already being prepared for a late meeting. The rich scent of roasted meats and fresh bread filled the air. Kalara's stomach growled loudly. Embarrassed, she lowered her head, but Harlan chuckled softly. "Sit," he told her. "Eat." She hesitated, then obeyed. Her hands shook as she picked up a piece of bread, warm and soft, unlike anything she had eaten from trash bins. The first bite nearly brought tears to her eyes. Harlan watched quietly as she ate, not rushing her. When she finally leaned back, full for the first time in years, he asked gently, "How long have you lived on the streets?" Kalara's ears drooped. "Since I was little. My mother, she was taken during raids. I don't know where she went. I have been alone since." Harlan frowned. "And your people? Do you have others like you here?" She shook her head. "Most do not trust hybrids. Humans see me as strange. Other aliens call me weak. No one wanted me. I survived alone." Harlan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Yet even alone you chose the right path. That speaks louder than any title or rank." Kalara blinked, stunned by his words. Nobody had ever spoken to her like this before. Whispers of doubt word of Harlan's actions spread quickly through the complex. By the next day, whispers filled the corridors. The ambassador of Earth had taken in a street hybrid as his guest. Some called it charity, others called it foolishness. During a meeting, one alien diplomat scoffed openly. "Ambassador Harlan, how can we take Earth seriously when you waste your attention on a beggar? Are humans so desperate to appear noble?" Harlan's reply was calm but firm. "It is not desperation. It is truth. Leadership is not measured by wealth or fleets. It is measured by the ability to see value where others see none." Kailara, who sat quietly in the corner, lowered her eyes. She felt the sting of their disdain but also the warmth of Harlan's defense. For the first time in her life, someone had stood up for her. The turning point days passed. Kailara adjusted slowly to her new surroundings. She was given clean clothes, simple but comfortable. She slept on a real bed, soft and warm, though it took her many nights before she could fall asleep without fear of being chased away. But what changed most was how she was treated. Harlan introduced her to his staff not as a servant but as his guest. At first, many resisted, but they quickly learned that the ambassador's respect for her was not to be questioned. One evening, during a high-level negotiation, tensions ran high between human diplomats and representatives of a rival alien world. Agreements were on the edge of collapse. Voices rose, accusations filled the air, and anger burned. Then, to everyone's surprise, Harlan called Kailara forward. "This child," he said, "reminds us of what is important. Speak, Kailara. Tell them what you told me." Kailara froze. Her heart pounded. Dozens of powerful eyes turned toward her. She wanted to run, but Harlan's steady gaze encouraged her. Slowly, she stepped forward. Her voice was quiet at first, but it grew stronger. She spoke of life in the shadows, of hunger and loneliness. She spoke of the night she found the wallet and how easy it would have been to keep it. She spoke of her mother's words, that true strength is shown not by what you take, but by what you give. The room grew still. Even the most hardened diplomats found themselves listening. Her words were not polished, but they were real. They cut deeper than any speech written by politicians. When she finished, silence hung heavy. Then slowly one alien delegate rose. His voice was low but respectful. "Perhaps," he said, "the humans are right. Perhaps honor still exists in unexpected places." The revelation, what none of them knew, was that Kailara carried more than honesty in her heart. Her hybrid bloodline contained fragments of genetic memory, a gift from her extinct Fox alien ancestors. When she stood among the diplomats, flashes of ancient knowledge stirred within her mind. Maps of forgotten star paths, symbols of treaties long buried, whispers of wisdom passed through her blood. She did not understand them fully, but Harlan noticed. During one late evening, she sketched symbols in the margins of paper while speaking of strange dreams. Harlan studied the markings and recognized them as ancient codes, once thought lost to time. They contained secrets of old alliances that could bridge the gap between hostile civilizations. Kailara had unknowingly become a living link between the past and present. The FY moment, when negotiations reached a breaking point, Harlan revealed Kailara's gift. He did not present her as a weapon or a tool, but as a bridge. "She is not human by birth," he declared, "but she represents what humanity stands for. The ability to see beyond bloodlines, beyond appearances, beyond fear. Where others saw a beggar, we saw a voice of truth, and in her truth lies a path forward for us all." Kailara stepped forward again, this time with confidence. She shared what her memories revealed, guiding the diplomats toward an agreement that honored both sides. The alien delegates, moved by her honesty and her unique knowledge, laid down their anger. A new treaty was signed, stronger than any before, a new beginning. The night of the signing, celebrations filled the city. Lights danced across the skies and music echoed through the streets. But the true celebration was inside Kailara's heart. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer a child surviving in the shadows. Ambassador Harlan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You changed everything," he told her quietly. "Not me. You." Kailara smiled for the first time in years, her eyes bright with hope. The girl who once had nothing, who once lived alone in the cold streets, had returned a wallet when no one expected her to. That single choice had transformed her life, stunned powerful leaders, and opened the door to peace between worlds. And as the stars shone above the city of Erlon, Kailara finally believed what her mother had told her long ago. True strength is not in taking, it is in giving.